Gentlemen, we are live. We are live. And good morning. How's it going?
Good morning.
Good, good. And so, welcome to MMBBA Live. I'm Sean Williams, and I'm your host and the current president of the Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers Association. So, each week, Matthew and Zach, we bring conversations focused on leadership, advocacy, innovation, which we know you have a ton of innovation going on with your platform, and the issues impacting mortgage professionals throughout Maryland. And so today's discussion focuses on one of the hottest topics in business and technology: artificial intelligence, better known as AI. More importantly, we're going to separate the hype from reality and discuss how mortgage companies can use AI strategically to improve operations, strengthen decision making, and better serve customers. And so, before I get started, because I always forget to do this, I want to thank our sponsors. Uh, we want to first start by thanking Bay Capital Mortgage, CIC Credit, and CMG Home Loans. Thank you for your sponsorship. And so today, this morning, I'm joined by Zach Silverman, who's the co-founder, and Matthew Smith with excuse me, uh, with Insyde AI. And so, just real quick, you can tell a lot. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do today? Instead of me reading all your bios, we're gonna start with the fun facts, and then you guys can likely do a much better job at introducing yourselves than I will, because we have this bio written out, and I'm not reading it all. You guys are really well accomplished, and so I want to get started. So first and foremost, so let's start with Matthew Smith. Matthew, tell us what your role is with Inside AI, and then before you finish, give us one fun fact or unexpected fact about what about you, right? That most people don't know, but probably should.
Yeah, of course. Good one. So, on the AI strategic growth manager at Insyde AI, I focus primarily on growth of accounts, growth of clientele and users. At Insyde AI, we generally focus on AI for the mortgage industry. We go through all the compliance, we go through all the steps to make sure that they have the AI they need and they feel secured. Now, one fun fact about me, I guess, is I started my career in construction as an electrician. So it's kind of cool to see it go from me being an 18-year-old working construction for 2 years to coming over to AI and being in sales. It's been a cool path to kind of get to this point right now. That would be what I would say for my fun fact.
Interesting. So electrician
Yep.
and working in construction to now doing the AI world.
Yeah, connecting systems and houses, now connecting it with AI. It's kind of a 180 a little bit, but kind of similar,
Yeah.
I guess. Different
No,
tools.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Thanks for that. And so, Zach, we'll turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, as much as you want, as the the co-founder of Inside AI, and then give us a fun fact about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm Zach Silverman. I got really interested in AI. I would say around 3 years ago. I was in college. I took an AI class around the time that uh, ChatGPT had become super popular. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then, fun fact: I own a cat. Here she is. There you go. It's a fun fact about me.
Oh, that's cool. That's a big cat. What kind of cat is that?
I don't. I found her outside like years ago.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. That's a nice looking cat. So it's a good fun fact. And she is that what you said?
I found her. Yeah.
All right, that's awesome, man. You're a good man. That's awesome. So before we got started, I kind of got a, what 30,000 foot view of some of the AI tools, and you guys were asking me. And so before we get started, like I was asking questions about types of AI, right? I think the one that at least I um, was asking about was agentic AI versus generative, and I didn't know there was such a thing as generative AI. But before we get into that, Zach, can you kind of explain what we were talking about beforehand about the sort of the differences and what each thing does, so to speak?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different. So AI has been, the idea of artificial intelligence or machine learning has been around since the 1950s, or 1940s. Like Alan Turing, the Enigma project, right? Like that is like the first form of machine learning, right? So first you have like machine learning, neural networks, right? And then it kind of evolved into this. And I might be skipping a couple of steps, but it kind of evolved into then you had generative AI, right? So those initial strategies that these frontier labs use to make to do machine learning, right, to make neural networks, evolved into these large language models, right? So large language models are a form, probably the best example of generative AI. And then obviously you have image generation models, you have all these different models, right? So the models themselves are Gen AI. And then agentic AI is when I can have a model, basically, the best way I could describe it is agentic AI is like having a model explain, instruct rather another model on what to do, right? So right now, Sean, you interact with your chat GPT, right? If you do a chat GPT prompt, that's an agentic deployment. So you're controlling the agent. But you could take that a step further and basically automate the prompt, right? And have an agent interact with the models for you. So that's kind of the next step, right? Our models instructing each other on what to do.
Understood.
I know that it kind of took a while to answer the question. There's a lot of things, but
No, that's a great answer because obviously we have to understand that not everybody understands what this all means. And I like to think that I know a decent amount, enough to be dangerous, right? That cliche term as it relates to AI. But it's always good to get the information in a way that that's digestible, that we can actually understand. So no, it's fine. Um, Also, Insyde AI, like tell us what the company is and how the company got started.
So Insyde AI, we are an enterprise software as a service provider, enterprise AI provider for mortgage lenders and banks. So essentially, our product, best way I could describe it is, imagine like what you do now with ChatGPT and Claude. Some loan officers out there, have their own connectors that they've set up. It's an AI system that's highly tailored and customized towards the mortgage lending vertical. So making the high level idea is making all of your systems, whether it's your LOS, your Encompass, your CRM, your product and pricing engine, all of your systems be able to interface and interact with large language models all within the same place. And we could dive a little bit deeper into that.
So what do you mean by large? I apologize for interrupting, but large language models, right? What specifically are you meaning by that when you say it, like to interact or interface with large language models? What would be a large language model for a mortgage company?
Okay, so the model itself is less relevant in the example, right? Because it could be GPT 3.5, it could be Opus 4.8, right? Those are just whatever model you're using from the frontier lab. So that's less. The model itself is less relevant, but how you're able to interface with your data. So like imagine, right? Like I guess a way I could describe it is, the lender's here, right? The data's here, or rather like the data is here and then the model is here, right? So, how does the model understand what it's looking at? So for Encompass, for example, which we're in their partner program, it's not the easiest thing to build an AI application using Encompass APIs. It's harder to interface with the data. Same thing with like guidelines and unstructured data. A lot of times what happens is if you just pull up a model, like your ChatGPT, OpenAI, and you ask a question about the FHA guidelines, for example, It might give you something that's outdated from when that model was trained. It might give you something inaccurate. So we reference the source material and only the source material for like unstructured data for guidelines, for example. And then we know how to interact with your LOS data. So when you put in an English language prompt and you say, I want to see all my loans I closed above 8% in 2023 because you want to find your refi opportunities, the system knows exactly how to look through your pipeline.
I see. I see. Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And so that leads me to my next question. And Matthew, if you want to take this one, because I know you're out on the front lines and you're growing the company and doing some sales. Um, where are you seeing like the most impactful use cases for AI within mortgage organizations today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So where we're seeing it impact mostly would be through our LOS and sales agent, where AI is able to go into your LOS, go into your system, find refi opportunities, prepare the ability to create a purchase offer in 30 to 60 seconds using AI. When we know someone that's not experienced, someone that is experienced, can still take 30 minutes to create that purchase offer. We have the AI pull all of your information together as a pool so it can then give you that information instantly. So quick access to data is something that's really helped in the industry speed up the process. That's a quick answer. And then when it comes to, we have a borrower space as well, where you insight to data into, all the emails that you've had with one person, all of their loan information, their loan file, all the session context when you've asked before. So you have the information right in front of you, your fingertips. So I would say insight to information is what helps the most in this industry.
Got it. Got it. And so, like for instance, if you all weren't involved in sort of aggregating that information and that data, like what would it look like for a company, for instance? Like, so I'm going to use Insyde AI because it sounds like that's going to make things a lot more efficient for me. So I go into my LOS and I can take this data and quickly, based on a prompt or whatever I've trained it to look for, it makes things faster for me to get access to that data. But if I didn't have a service like Insyde AI or the capability, would it take me a lot more time? Like, is it labor intensive for me to gather that information? Does that make sense? What I'm
Yes.
asking?
Yeah. So I mean, this is a common debate, I think, amongst lenders, especially the bigger ones, is build versus buy, especially in AI, right? Because now you have these. It's so. What's happened is in the immediate last 6 months, now the average person, right? Like myself, Matt, you, Sean, like anybody who has like normal computer experience and isn't like a coding wizard can build their own applications, right? But mostly to the extent you can design your own applications. You can build a really cool front end. You can build a cool user interface. But actually connecting all of the data and everything to that app that you're building is very difficult. So, I mean, we can come in a lot of ways. I mean, we have a full-fledged product that we sell. We've also pretty soon are going to be rolling out. We're going to be offering our engine to lenders who do want to build themselves. So. Data connectors basically we have like a layer that sits in between the data and the lender. So when they build their own applications, they can connect everything super easily. And then I wanted to touch a little bit more on the different use cases like that we're seeing within mortgage companies. And this is like even aside from what we do, like everything around AI is, well, there's a lot around like income analysis, like calculating income, any sort of guideline knowledge-based retrieval. You see there's multiple companies that do just that, right? Like anything that can reduce the amount of time it takes for a loan to close, or like the amount of time somebody spends on whatever task it is, or obviously increase loan production. And then what Matt discussed, which is our refi agent, and then sales suite, right, is addresses that, right? Like how do you generate more revenue within the organization?
I've actually heard like users that are on Insyde AI for that. using that actual service, um, they were raving about it and how quickly they're able to access the information and how much they would have been leaving on the table if they hadn't built a service like this. Like, and when I say leaving on the table, meaning opportunities that were never uncovered, that were just there, and you didn't know, which could lead to maybe your competition reaching out. If you like, for instance, like mortgage companies that don't service their loans, for instance, the servicers are like, after a certain amount of time, the servicers are going to reach out. But if you have access to that data and you have control over it, but you have like triggers set up and things of that nature to be able to alert you, and help you organize that information, it gives you a competitive edge and and so I've heard two people so far that I've talked to that are using your service state how much revenue they've been able to gain by implementing just the simplest thing, like you mentioned. I don't know how simple it is, but it sounds like it is, at least, to get the alerts as it relates to scrubbing your database and looking for certain rates and such to reach out to for refinance opportunities.
Yeah, it's something that's like would surprise, I think, most people. Is that, a lot of times loan officers will just have, these refi eligible borrowers sitting in their database, just right there, ready to go. And so it's happened a few times, Sean, where we will sign up a customer and then it ends up paying for itself, basically immediately, because one of their loan officers who hasn't been checking up on their pipeline logs in, makes some offers, sends them out. All of a sudden they got, this really happened. The one guy had like 7 loans the first week they turned it on, that were going to close.
Interesting.
Sorry, I just want to expand that as well. So we actually did also just launch a case study that we did some research with our client NFM Lending in the Great Lakes division, where they were able to year over year have an 1,000% increase in production by using that tool, and by using it to have the offers automatically send out. That whole process was able to really increase their production as a whole. So that's what we've seen as well.
So explain the offers that are sent out. So this is something that's built and then it just automatically goes out, or do I have to do any work to make the offer go out? And
So
when I assume offer, you're stating a refinance offer. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, so either a refi, cash out refi, or a purchase offer. So we have 3 different offers that you can create. And so, I mean, it is this specific use case of our product is there are some other products out there that do something similar. And I'm not going to name names, but the difference is that ours integrates with all of the different systems. So traditionally, if you want to create one of these offers, these email templates that show, kind of 4 different scenarios, 4 different down payments, here's what you can save, on a refi, if you do a refi into a 15-year versus a 30-year, right? So it's like a visual, representation for the borrower. But the difference is when you go to generate one in our system, it takes like a minute or 30 seconds because, you ask for the data, shows you the list of the borrowers, has a little generate offer button next to the borrower. You go to generate, automatically brings all of the information about the borrower in from the LOS. So traditionally, you'll have to work out of like 5 different systems to get one of these out.
Yeah.
Now you can imagine, Sean, let's say rates just drop all of a sudden, rates are volatile. They could go down, for a day, go back up the next day. If it's taking me an hour and a half to put together one of these offers because I have to go to Encompass and then Poly, then back to Encompass, and then back to this other system, I'm going to get like 3 of those out in a day. We have, a customer who rates dropped like last April and he got 300 out in a day. And it resulted in like 50 locks over like a 2-day period. So that's like another thing is like the speed to the borrower, like you said about the servicers. The servicers are able to offer a more competitive rate. So if they get to your borrower first, I mean, it's difficult to compete with them unless if you just provided them the greatest customer experience of all time, the first one that they did with you.
Understood. Thanks for that. So let's get into security. Like that's been something that I've been reading a lot lately. That's a major thing and a concern, especially because we're dealing with personal information and sensitive information, specifically in the mortgage industry. And so, security and compliance being major concerns for our industry, how should lenders be thinking about like safely using AI with their internal data?
I think they should be taking it very, very serious. And I think that across the board, there's not a lot of like sense of urgency about this subject. So, like for example, if you're on, if I'm a big lender, right, and I have the free version of ChatGPT or Claude, and my employees are using it, um, by default, it trains the model based on what you're telling it.
Right.
So you have your loan officers inputting data, proprietary data, borrower's address, social security, whatever it is, right? That's a huge leak and risk already. So years ago when we started, we had already seen some lenders just outright ban ChatGPT or Claude until they could find a good solution. So, and then I could compare that to our solution, right, which is an enterprise AI solution, and we have, um, you know, we host the data in a virtual private cloud unique to each customer. And then obviously have, agreements, when you go through the APIs with the frontier labs that they're not going to train based on that data. And one thing I would recommend for anyone listening is to go into your settings for ChatGPT, go to, privacy or wherever it is, or Claude or whatever you use. And wherever it says like improve the model for everyone or help train the model or help ChatGPT get better, turn that off. You don't want that in your life at all.
So turn
But
off
yeah,
the training.
yes, yeah. Now,
Okay.
if anyone's a customer of ours, doesn't happen. And the other thing is like, so there are some people that have the approach of kind of like training their own models, and we do, and we have our own kind of training techniques. But one thing that I think, at least Matt and I think, is really exciting that kind of has to do with a little bit with security, but a lot about training are skills, right? Giving I'm not sure how deep you've kind of gone into this, Sean, with skills, but it's be something cool to look into later. Is skills are basically like system instructions for the LLM of like if I give it a sales contract, for example, I want it to format, the response a very specific way, right? So and then you have these things that are like industry specific, whether it's for mortgage or something else, where you have a certain workflow that a skill can accomplish. Um, so, but that isn't so. But I say that to say there's a difference between like that versus like actually like training a model,
Hmm.
um, which I think for the most people, just like giving additional context or system instructions to these models, it will be like more than enough, and take them very far, actually.
Understood. And so, what's the worst case scenario that could happen for someone? You mentioned, like, I've noticed many mortgage companies, specifically the company I work for, right? Um, no data and information should be put inside of a personal, like Chat GPT and such. It should go
Yep.
through our enterprise system, right, in order to access data or just ask questions and such. And so, like, say I'm a lender, broker, whatever it is, a small business that I'm using like the free version, non-enterprise version of an AI tool. Um, what's the risk? Like what part of where's the risk and security issues come into play
So
besides the training aspect of it?
the risk is the training aspect of it, right?
Okay.
That what the problem is, right? Like let's say I post something on Facebook or Instagram, right? I could delete that post and it's gone. Now obviously there's digital footprint, there's whatever. When you have an LLM, right, a large language model, if I tell it something and it's using what I told it to train the model, it's forget it. There's no deleting it. There's no getting rid of it. It's in there
Uh,
forever. So you have these bad actors that use techniques like prompt injection, they call it, right, or malicious prompting, where they are basically able to extract certain information that other individuals have uploaded into these models, right? So it is a big deal. Now the average person, right, Sean, like myself or Matt or anybody, like we're not the kind of we don't have the skill set to do that, right? To just extract this proprietary information, but there are people who do. So like I would be careful, especially if you have training enabled, uploading or generating passwords using these models, right? Like, unless if you're hosting them locally, like, I don't think it's a huge risk, but I mean, I do think it's a risk. And it's not a risk that you have to take.
Right.
Also vetting your vendors too, like make sure that they're SOC 2 type 2 compliant. There's a lot of like freelance vendors out there now who do AI automation, which is fine to work, especially if you're a small business. It's fine to work with anybody like that, but make sure that if they're to your proprietary data that you're protecting it.
Understood. No, thanks for that. That's great information. I told you this actually for selfish reasons. I'm learning a lot. So I'm a curious host today.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the money real quick. So lenders are trying to evaluate an AI investment. What should they be looking for from an ROI perspective? Because I'm sure, and maybe you're just that great at it. Not every single person you sit in front of is going to use your service, right? And they're always trying to not always, but many are thinking about what the return on investment is. Like, so what should people be looking for? Leaders and decision makers be looking for as it relates to the ROI perspective.
So this is actually kind of a fun question because we do so many different things, right? Like they're like literal vendors who will do like one aspect of what we do, and that's their whole business model. So when it comes to ROI, there's a few things, right? So the first is if you're not using a RAG enabled chatbot, right, a retrieval augmented generation system for guidelines, and you're a lender, that's the first thing to address. And I think it's probably at this point the easiest to address. Make it so that your loan officers, your underwriters, your processors, everyone in the company can ask guideline questions using an AI system. Less strain on your scenario desk, on your underwriters. Like we've implemented this in multiple companies now. And this is a huge home run. I mean, every time somebody uses that, they're saved 10 to 15 minutes to be way more efficient. They'll get the questions answered faster for the borrower, loan turnaround quicker. So that's one piece, right? For AI. And that's probably the easiest place that you can start. You have people that are doing like OCR, computer vision, document processing analysis. You can do that. I think that it doesn't make as much sense for smaller companies to like super overspend on tech. Like a lot of times we have top lenders, right, where we can see their tech stack and all the systems that they pay for. And then we'll talk to a lender who does maybe an eighth or a tenth of their volume, and they'll be signed up for all the same vendors. And so that I think is kind of just overdoing it. I don't know if that's as big of like an impact. And then obviously being able to use AI to leverage your existing database, right? Your pipeline, be able to generate marketing content, offers. And then you'll kind of start to see everything integrate a little bit more. Like something that's coming to our platform very soon is like right now, you can interact with, your Encompass data, for example. You can interact with your guidelines, but you're doing them separately. So something that we're bringing to our platform is being able to marry the two, right? And, be able to say, all right, for Matthew Smith's loan, who just started an application, right? Look at all of the different non-QM products and which one is Matt best qualified for example. So I know I kind of said a bunch of different things, but for ROI, biggest impact would be the guidelines.
Understood. Just right out of the gate, just putting those guidelines in one place.
And that's something that we offer. There's other vendors who offer that. you can build it yourself. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not as easy to build it yourself as lenders think. You certainly especially that piece is the most simple. You certainly can build it yourself, and we have tools and things to help people build them as well. But
Understood. And then Matt, what about like misconceptions like that you're seeing in like for instance, what are some of the objections you're getting when you're out there, growing this and sitting in front of decision makers and pitching this to companies? Like, again, what are your objections that you're hearing, and then like biggest like misconceptions in organizations that they have like when they're exploring AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when it comes to misconceptions, I get a lot of people that think it's just going to automatically do everything for them. They think that's going to be able to just do all of their processes, make everything automated. That's not the case. We still have that human touch there. And that's something that needs to be there always, is that one point of contact to push out the information. But what we do offer is the ability to have that done with without having to increase headcount constantly. So we do help on that aspect. Kind of the objections we've been seeing mostly is that a lot of certain companies aren't ready for AI, but that's not the case, like Zach was saying earlier. Because if you start off with guidelines, you can then build into more workflows, into more automation until you have that perfect tech stack like our bigger clients. So that's kind of what I've seen the most.
yeah, I think that so like one objection we get a lot is that maybe people, they don't think that they can get the adoption, because that's a lot of very often lenders sign up for technology, CRMs, whatever it is, and they don't get the adoption that they thought they would. I can say with our product that is not the case. The lenders that really embrace this and push within their organizations to get people to use it, crazy results in terms of buy-in, right, from the users, like 80% to 90% of the entire organization using it. Some of our customers. So, and I think that also, I think everyone should be embracing this technology at the enterprise level anyways, because it makes your organization more valuable. You have an organization of a few hundred people that understand AI, they understand how to use these systems, how to make themselves more efficient. I think it certainly helps you compete with the competitor down the street. I think it brings more value to your company. Certainly makes you more efficient. So, but it is intimidating, as some people are intimidated by it. There's definitely a good place to start. I mean, I think the best place to start in general is like whatever it is that you do for a living. Like, it doesn't really, this kind of translates to anything. Is like what's like the main like bottleneck, I guess, or like what's really holding back your current workflow, right? And like how could you use AI or software to optimize that? And I think that's kind of where we're seeing a lot of the use cases come from. Just like talking to lenders, figuring out like, all right, these are like my, if you could just wave a magic wand and it could do this, then I would be so happy and I would buy it. And we're like, okay, well, that's kind of, I think good feedback, right, on what to build.
Understood. And back to your point about the guidelines, I just remember there was a world where we'd have to go into individual guidelines. Like, so, we go Fannie Freddie, right? We'd have HUD, we have VA, USDA, whatever these guidelines were, the different sets of loan products and such, and you'd be hitting Control F. You type in what you're looking for, and then there's 10 different areas that you can go to. And now, I mean, I don't know. I guess I take it for granted at this point, but now to be able to go in and in plain terms in English to kind of type what exactly it is specifically that I'm looking for, and getting a response and an output, then I can go back. If I don't trust it, for instance, right? I can ask where it's located in all regs or whatever these guidelines are, and I can go back and go specifically to that area that I'm looking for. So
That's a
that's not
feature
something.
of our product is we reference the source material as well.
Yeah,
So you can, and you, by the way, you said, back in the day, Control F, you would be surprised. There's like lenders today that still are doing things that way. And that's kind of was like one of the original, like, motivations for us starting this was that at the time you couldn't upload documents into ChatGPT. This was like, whatever, the first couple months when it had first come out, or when 3.5 first came out and they were selling it and everything. And so that was like the first thing was guidelines, right? And then it evolved into data and this and that. But back to kind of like objections, I've seen, we've had calls where, we'll be talking to somebody who is, maybe high up in the organization, they're maybe the person who's responsible for the guidelines. And they'll be like, oh, I don't need this. I know all the guidelines, because they've been doing it forever.
they know the
20
guidelines.
years. But then we're like, yeah, well, the other 100 people that work for you don't. Otherwise, you wouldn't be, answering guideline questions all day.
And we don't want to spend any time looking for those guidelines either. Like the least
Right.
amount of time that we have to spend, the more opportunities that we get.
And if you do non-QM, like maybe this is my opinion, but if you do non-QM, you don't know all the guidelines. I mean, these non-QM,
sure.
you got 100 different investors, like, and it's, by the way, I think huge for that, because, before you'd have to look through all these documents individually. Now, this is a great prompt. This is some free sauce. It's like you could just say, give it a loan scenario and say, look through all of the loan products in my knowledge base and tell me what this borrower could qualify for. So you create your own, and we do this, by the way, right? So, I mean, if you're a customer of ours, then you can already, this is easy, but you can build your own knowledge bases in your ChatGPT on an individual basis, get all your different non-QM products, everything together, and do that prompt, right? What products do they qualify for? Look through all the guidelines in my knowledge base and let me know. I think that one's very cool, very helpful. So
understood. And so we'll wrap in a little bit. I'll sit here and talk to you guys all day long, but I know we don't have time to do that. But so typically I'm out somewhere and I meet someone, and naturally a question is well, what do you do? And they're asking me, and typically I say I'm a husband and a father, and to try to get away from the work stuff, right? And so I always know what they mean. And so I'm like, what? I'm in, mortgage banker, I'm in mortgage lending. And so what are the rates? That's the one question that I get. And then the other thing is, well, what are the rates going to be doing next year? And I'm just like, what? I if I knew that, I would, if I could only tell you that. And then, I'm like, I study it and I understand the charts, and we get alerts and things like that. And so we're up on it. We understand what's going on, but especially now with the market the way it is there's uncertainty and such that are affecting the way the rates are. So I'm going to throw that back on you all, because I'm sure you're going to be getting if you already haven't. Anytime you tell someone that you're into artificial intelligence or AI, they're asking you, well, what's the future look like? So can you give me an idea of what you think your perspective is like over the next few years? Like, where is this thing going from? And I'm speaking mortgage specific, from a customer experience, like employee productivity and like operational efficiencies. Like, where is it going? Have we even scratched the surface? And then
you're talking about for mortgage?
Yeah, for mortgage. Yeah, for mortgage.
So I think it's moving very, very fast, but I don't think it's moving as fast as some people think it is. Like, there's really cool things that you can do with agents right now, but like an agent is not going to take over your job for you and just, and 99 times out of 100 today, that's not going to happen. But 12 months, 18 months from now, I think the landscape is going to be a little bit different. People are going to start to close the gap, of where does the human intervene in the process of closing a loan. So, I think you're going to see a lot more automated processing, underwriting, a reduction of human beings, spending time touching the loan file, which will in turn reduce the cost of a loan. So a lot of the stuff that like right now people are doing like behind the computer screen, I think that will, obviously become more efficient with AI. I'm not really sure how it affects sales, what the loan officer is doing. I mean, it is a very like, personal business, right? Especially, people who, have, realtor relationships and go that route. So, but yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And then for the world in general, I mean, it's like just crazy, like just ridiculous, like you got robots that are doing all kinds of stuff people are building, like 5-10 years from now. I mean, I think the robots are going to be doing everything. So it's
Get out of here. Uh-oh. War of the words. War of the worlds.
but yeah.
No, thanks for that. So, gentlemen, did I miss anything? Did we miss anything? Are there any parting words? Like you've given us some great takeaways, but like, are there like, one takeaway about using AI strategically that you could leave for our members?
I think, one thing that we want to just mention, about ourselves is, I mean, we've obviously kind of touched on like, a couple things that our product does and why we think it's great. I wanted to share like we do have some top lenders on the platform. 2 of our customers are in the top 5 for retail IMBs, guaranteed rate, NFM lending, among other customers around the country. So we're always looking for new customers, new people to come check our software out, and so please get in contact if you're listening to this and you saw the the podcast. So that's one thing I wanted to add in there.
No, it's good. Thanks for that. How about you, Matt? Any parting words or?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us, Sean. I think the last parting word would be it's kind of cool how we can have all this done in a quick timeline. Like when it comes to our implementation, it's not going to be like a 5-month implementation that takes you forever, consumes your time. If you use the standard tech stack of a mortgage company, it can be anywhere from, what, Zach, like 2 days to 2 weeks, like tops. Like it's a very quick, efficient process. It's not this hard process to get started at. So you could always just get started very quick.
Well, so Zach and Matt, thank you for joining us today and helping us better understand how artificial intelligence, AI, I want to say Allen Iverson, by the way, because I keep thinking about AI, can be used strategically and responsibly within our industry. One of the key takeaways from today's discussion is that AI isn't simply about technology. It's about helping organizations make better decisions, improve efficiency, and create a better experience for both employees and customers. We appreciate you sharing your expertise, Zach and Matt, and helping our members understand how to approach AI in a practical and thoughtful way. Thank you, everyone who joined us today or is going to be watching the replay and sharing this information. Be sure to stay connected with the Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers Association for future episodes of MMBBA Live. And so, again, I'm Sean Williams. So, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.